So good morning and welcome to Steve's Seaside Allotment channel. I'm going to attempt a tour, but it's pretty windy, so unfortunately you just have to bear with me. But if I don't get it done today, it's going to be a few days because there's rain and wind coming. So let's give it a quick whirl around. And there's not much happening now. The plot, it's pretty much the same as last month's tour. Everything's growing reasonably well. Just a few little bits and pieces that need attention. So yeah, let's get on. So the biggest maintenance job on the plot now is the leaves everywhere. That's the trouble with these apple trees. But I've got some exciting plans eventually for what I'm going to do when I take these trees down. But that's the topic for another day. So let's just start at the start. Compost still doing pretty well. I've just given these a quick turn, and I don't know whether you can see that, but it's doing reasonably well. Nearly 50, which isn't bad at this time of year. And this one is probably a lot cooler. Yeah, just over 30, and that's kind of to be expected because that one's mostly done now. So this is my outside bed, and I'm actually pretty pleased with it so far. It's doing quite nicely. These were just spare plants that I had left over, so I thought I'll stick them in and I'll see how they do. It'll be an interesting contrast to how things are doing under cover. And so far, of course, the star of the show is the lamb's lettuce, which really does better outside than inside. And these lettuces, winter density, and they're doing quite nicely. And the salad rocket is doing pretty good. The spinach, not so good. And these lettuces, don't know what they are. They came in a packet that said lamb's lettuce, but obviously they're not lamb's lettuce. I'm just leaving them, see what they do. I've sorted out the raspberries now. They're all, summer fruitings are all tied in and the autumn fruitings are all cut down. Sometime this month I shall be giving these gooseberries a bit of a prune. Maybe it will be December. But, they're obviously ready for a bit of work. My spring onions in here are doing okay, not brilliantly, okay. Beans are down and the ground's all prepared with a thick mulch ready for next year. And this is my living bean frame. I planted these hazel cane rods well, a year and a half ago, and they rooted and took hold quite nicely. But I've been heavily managing them, taking the leaves off and all that sort of thing. So they're not growing aggressively, but they are just hanging on there, and therefore I'm hoping not rotting in the ground, and are just well rooted against the wind pressure that we get here. It seems to be doing okay. The leafy greens are all doing pretty well. Particularly pleased with these Motty Stone, I think, these at the back, and the Navara here looking beautiful, and the freckles all doing really nicely. Winter density okay, winter's miners lettuce is doing really nicely. I just kind of fly through these now. Salanova starting to get a little bit of damage on the tips of the greens. The reds are still doing splendidly. Lamb's lettuce getting a bit of mildew on these now because they're inside, undercover rather. Probably a mistake to have planted these undercover. Cleared some pat choy that was getting really badly eaten by caterpillars. Just popped some spinach in there and a bit of leaf beet. These are my bull's blood, which I'm using for leaves. they need cutting back really now, and then the young leaves taken for salads. Some patchouli in this bed that's not been affected much by caterpillars, and some giant red mustard at the back, and some more Navara and some red frills. This is my summer kale, which is hanging on in there into winter. It's not great eating though, it's a bit tough, but we'll see how it goes in winter. And of course in spring it's worth keeping it for spring because of all the flower shoots, which are really lovely. We've still got plenty of golden beetroot in this bed. We've got stacks of golden beetroot in the storeroom at home, but obviously we're picking these at the moment. 5 or 6 a week probably. And we've got some lettuce and some carrots and parsnips in here. Not brilliant, the carrots this year. Too much leaf growth, and I just didn't pick the right varieties. I went for some heritage sort of multicoloured ones, and I've not been too impressed with them really. More carrots in here, and then finally this leaf beet is starting to put on some decent growth. Got some more lettuce beds. These look less mature than the ones you've just seen, but they're actually not. It's just they've been very heavily picked. So this bed won't be picked next week. It'll be picked in a week's time, and by then it'll look really lush again. We've got some more spinach here. This is Red Kitten, and it's not doing brilliantly outside. I'm a bit surprised actually. It's not, even though it's not been that cold, we've only had one mild frost. It's not doing great. The salad rocket by contrast is doing really nicely. Carrots are okay. We've got some, I did have some little gem lettuces, finished harvesting those last week, and popped in some freckles to take their place. So these freckles here were sowed at the same time as those. Those went into the ground a few weeks, probably a month before these, which just stayed in the greenhouse. So these are still quite immature. These have been picked several times already. And we've got some spinach, which isn't looking very lush, but again it's been picked quite heavily only a few days ago, so it's just recovering. A few leeks in here. I picked a lot of these leeks because quite a few of them went to seed. We've used them, but yeah, we've not got very many left. We certainly need to plant more leeks next year. Some more carrots, some more winter miner's lettuce here. This is the Solanova bed that we've really been picking aggressively, and this is one where you can actually see these are older than the others, and they're starting to suffer a bit. You can see, yeah, a bit of dieback on the outer leaves of the greens, and really past the best now, and so I'll be replacing these soon. But the reds are doing still really quite well. Look at that again, you can see not so good on the greens. And then some spring onions, which are for next year. A bit more pak choy, a bit more winter miner's lettuce. And then I've got some more golden beets in here. Looking a bit ragged now, but the beets are fine. And this bed will be dug out soon, because this is a hotbed, and then it'll get refilled in late January with manure, and that will heat up and that'll be planted up, and that's another hotbed there ready to go. So I just recently planted this bed. This was my sweet potatoes, and yeah, we've got some spinach in here and some more spinach here, and you can see the difference between this red kitten here and the red kitten that's outside. You can see this is in much better condition. And we've got some red frills mustard here, and they've cleared the asparagus bed and given that a good mulch. And I've got my dwarf French beans, and these are basically finished now, so there's just one more harvest left in these. This is the second crop of dwarf beans that I've had in this bed, and I had hoped that I could keep on harvesting these later into November, but there's no flowers on them now, so they're coming to an end, which I've got replacement seedlings growing for this bed, and so this one will be one of the first ones with new crops in very early spring. And that is pretty much it. We've just got a few beetroot in there. Again, most of our beetroot's already been harvested and is in store. And we've got some chicory there, it's just starting to heart up. Some cabbages starting to heart up here. Reds and Savoy there. And a few little bits and pieces in my greenhouse. Most of the seedlings are at home. I've just got a few little bits here, just bits I've got left over really. There's nothing particularly that's growing in here, but we've got a few lettuces, a few red frills, some bull's blood, bits of pak choi, some onions that are ready to be planted, a few lettuces, whatever. So these are just really just being kept in here, just in case I lose any plants in the frames, and just spares to fill in those holes. But at the moment I've not lost very much, so just waiting for these to finally finish, and then I shall replant this bed, and then this patch will get replaced as well, and this winter miner's lettuce, and so most of this bed, for example, will be replanted, ready for early crops in the spring. And that's basically the way it goes on my plot. As soon as something's really finishing, it gets taken out and gets replanted with stuff for early next season. And I find that things overwinter okay, so things that are even planted in December, they overwinter fine, and then they really kick into life in February, and then they're ready for eating in March. So it goes quite well. And I've just left these apples here for the birds. I find if I leave the apples there, the birds munch away on them as they get hungry, and leave the plot alone. So it's always a good idea. And yeah, the strawberries have all been trimmed back now, and they're all starting to grow reasonably well. And I've got 2 empty compost bins. One is just empty, waiting to turn these bins, and the other one's for leaves. So this one will be full of leaves soon. But I'm kind of toying with the idea of filling 2 with leaves, because this bin here, that's at 30 degrees now, is really ready to go into one of these black bins, and so yeah, I might end up with 2 leaf bins, but we will see how that goes. So that is pretty much it. Oh, I forgot to show you my pride and joy broccoli. This is really pleased with this broccoli, and not because of the broccoli sprout, the florets, because we haven't had any yet, but with these leaves. We're just munching these leaves every night, and put them in the smoothie as well, and they're just beautiful leaves. They're just really tender, and yeah, really loving those, and the sprouts as well. So in closing, I'll just point out that we manage as a family to have 3 allotments, and as you can see the focus on mine is the leafy greens, in particular the salad greens and carrots and other few bits and pieces, and then the other plots have, you know, the potatoes and the big brassica beds and onions and things like that. So yeah, and especially speciality crops on the other plot. So yeah, take a look at some of the other tours and you'll see tours of Debbie's plot and Jennie's plot, and that makes a complete set of fruit and veg. So for now I think that's enough, and I'll see you again soon with another tour, and I think that will be Debbie's plot in a few weeks time. Okay, see you soon. Thanks for watching.